Good morning, fellow CII members and special invitees. Welcome to this unique initiative. I have with me the CII President, Mr. Muthuraman, to address us all via the webinar on a crucial topic which Mr. Muthuraman is passionate about: affirmative action. As you may be aware, affirmative action for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities is a voluntary commitment by Indian companies in the national endeavor to ensure equal opportunity to members of the SC/STs. Since 2006, CII has been leading Indian industry's efforts to bring the marginalized sections of our society into the economic mainstream via a comprehensive affirmative action agenda, which Mr. Muthuraman will elaborate upon. He has set affirmative action as one of his 3 focus areas in CII's main agenda this year. Industry has identified major initiatives ranging from scholarships and supplier diversity to vocational training and employment. While adoption of the Affirmative Action Code of Conduct is encouraged, the main focus remains in achieving the objective. Before I invite Mr. Muthuraman to sensitize and debate on the opportunities for industry, on implementation strategies and action plan initiatives for affirmative action, kindly allow me to introduce our main speaker this morning. Mr. Muthuraman is a BTech in Metallurgical Engineering from IIT Madras and did his MBA from XLRI Jamshedpur. He joined Tata Steel in 1966 and rose rapidly in the hierarchy to become Executive Director in 2000, Managing Director in 2001, and Non-Executive Vice Chairman in 2009. He chairs Tata International Limited and is on the board of several companies. He is also Chairman, Board of Governors, XLRI and NIT at Jamshedpur. He has received several recognitions, including Tata Gold Medal from IIM in 2002, CEO of the Year Award from Business Standard in 2005, and Eco Times Award for Corporate Excellence in 2008. But his crowning glory is the presidentship of CII, as well as he is Chairman, CII National Council for Affirmative Action. So let's begin the journey. Mr. Muthuraman, are you ready? Okay, here goes my questions. Mr. Muthuraman, you have been in the Tata Group for over 4.5 decades, a group renowned for its philanthropic drive that spans the entire spectrum of empowerment initiatives, whether of women or of the marginalized, a topic which we are focusing on this morning. In fact, of an entire city, Jamshedpur, which you have been personally involved with. Your company, Tata Steel, gave the slogan, "We also make steel," reminding the citizens that there is more to business than business itself. Can you tell us, sir, where the passion comes from? Something I personally witnessed at the affirmative action meetings, and your views and vision regarding affirmative action and its relevance in India and to our members.
Thank you, Madhur, and it's a great pleasure for me to participate in this webinar. You know, my passion for affirmative action comes from 3 things. One is what I have seen Tata Steel do for over 100 years. Without calling it as affirmative action, Tata Steel has been training people from the scheduled caste, scheduled tribes in terms of recruitment, skill development, financial help, and all kinds of help without any kind of discrimination whatsoever. And this is something which I have hardly seen somewhere. So my the passion for affirmative action in me comes from what I have seen in Tata Steel for many years. The second reason for my passion is my own sort of personal experience from early years of my life. I remember my grandfather was a landlord and a rice merchant in a village in Tanjore in Tamil Nadu. And every time these people, carrying these rice bags used to come to our house behind which we had our godown for rice. My grandmother, as soon as they leave, my grandmother will wash the place where they were standing. And it struck me as to why she was doing it. And it remained in my memory for a very long time. And I said that there must be something very odd about our behavior for somebody to sort of wash the place. Uh, as people came and stood there and left. The third reason for my passion is one's knowledge of history, what has happened historically over the last 1,000 years or many thousands of years, and because of the kind of social system that we have lived in, especially in India, we have marginalized certain sections of the society from taking part in economic activities. And I had always felt that we must correct that situation one day. And it is this civilization, it is this current generation and the coming generations which is going to correct it. So these are the three reasons for being very passionate about affirmative.
Mr. Muthuraman, if we divide our membership in three categories, A, those who are sold to the idea of affirmative action and are already acting on it. The second group would be those which are so occupied in the day-to-day business that they have no time, energy, or inclination towards affirmative action initiatives. And the third category, those who are positively inclined but don't know what to do, how to begin. What would be your advice to each of these above categories?
The first group of people or the first group of companies who are convinced on affirmative action and the need for affirmative action, and those who are doing something about it, I think needs to be encouraged to do more. They need to be rewarded. They need to be recognized. They need to be shown to the rest of the industry as role models. We need to make sure that they are being seen as as torch bearers of affirmative action and as torch bearers of what is to be done as good for the society. The second group of people, those who are not convinced and those who don't think affirmative action is part of their business conduct, those are the people on whom we need to focus much more. Prod them, we need to counsel them, we need to keep talking to them, we need to bring some peer pressure on them, and we also need to talk to them about what is the alternative for not taking the affirmative action. What will the government do? Because the government often talks about reservations, and I think reservations can kill the industry. So that is a set of shall we say suggestions that I have in order to make sure that the companies who are not willing to do affirmative action, companies which are not convinced, they need to be convinced by doing all these actions. The third group is, or those who want to do it but who don't know how to do it. I think those are the companies on whom also we need to spend some time by showing the first group of people, by showing examples, by showing the role models, by showing them, by demonstrating to them as to what good can come out of taking actions that are required under affirmative action, by demonstrating to them, saying that if they don't do it, what is the likely scenario that is going to result into. So we need to work with all the three groups of people, but in a differential way and in a very focused way. But it is a second group and little bit of the third group that we need to focus our attention on.
Mr. Muthuraman, I believe that in order to capture the success stories, you have asked all the regional heads to bring out publications. Would you like to mention that?
Yeah, in fact, I think there has been an excellent initiative, and if I am not mistaken, probably started with southern region, and it has been followed by west, east, north. It's called the Endeavour, and I'm sure many of you would have seen it. And I think it's a wonderful publication, which brings out success stories and case studies from various companies. I would actually like to compliment all the four regions for starting this. And endeavor, if I may use the word. And it's an excellent publication. It's got success stories and case studies from many companies, both large and small. I would suggest adding one more thing to it, that let us make this quantitative, because at the end of the day, what gets measured will get done. And if we measure our actions, if we measure our results of our actions on affirmative action, I think we will produce better results. So my one suggestion would be, while complimenting the regions for producing this booklet, my one suggestion would be to make it quantifiable, make it quantified. Talk about how many employed, what is the numbers on employability, what's the number on skill development, what's the number on supplier diversity, and so on and so forth. So, but it's a great publication.
But why is this focus on the STSCs?
Madhur, industry, and I know that many parts of the industry focus on many aspects of the society, whether it is women empowerment, or whether it is doing good to poor irrespective of the caste or community that they belong, including the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe upliftment. But we must remember that resources for doing any large scale activity such as this are always going to be limited. And when resources are limited, it is better to start somewhere. And SCST being the largest, shall we say, sufferers of what the humanity has done to them over the last thousands of years, I think it's a good starting point. That is the only reason. It is not that we want to prevent people from doing benefits to the other sections of the society. It is not so. People are free to do those also. There are two reasons for focusing on SCST sections of the society. One is that within the limited resources that are available, resources are always limited. Let us start somewhere, and that starting somewhere happens to be SCST. The second is the government's focus is on SCST, and therefore, if we focus on SCST, we would have aligned our objectives with the objectives of the government. These are the two reasons.
Thank you. I'm sure the members would like to know from you, what is this code of conduct? Is it mandatory to sign for the companies implementing affirmative action? Can you please elaborate on
You
this?
see, the code of conduct, like any other code of conduct that many of our companies adopt, a code of conduct is a statement of intentions. The statement on code of conduct and affirmative action is stating that we will have a practice of non-discrimination. We will have a practice of upskilling the SC/ST candidates. We will provide more employment to them. We will make sure that they are brought into the mainstream of the society as quickly as possible. We will make sure that entrepreneurial development takes place among SC/ST communities. So the code of conduct is an intention on the part of the CII member companies to ensure that the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe sections of the society are brought to the mainstream of the society, and they get engaged in economic activities of this country as quickly as possible and as efficiently as possible. That is the code of conduct. Now, we have requested all member companies to sign the code of conduct, and I know many CII member companies have signed the code of conduct. But if you have to ask me whether signing the code of conduct is compulsory, it is not compulsory. It is voluntary. But I would recommend that this voluntary nature of code of conduct is honored by our committing to the code of conduct, or our committing to the content of the code of conduct. And supposing if you see two situations, if there is a company which is not doing anything on affirmative action, and just have signed the code of conduct, that's not a preferable outcome. But if there are companies which are not signing affirmative action and still doing a lot of work on affirmative action, I think it's a very desirable outcome. But the most desirable outcome is somebody who signs the code of conduct and also adheres to the code of conduct and takes lots of actions on affirmative action.
Mr. Muthuraman, what has been or ought to be the CII members' role in giving energy, thrust, and drive to this momentum? Are you satisfied with the efforts that have been made by over 8,000 members?
You know, at the outset, I must acknowledge the contribution made by several members of the CII, several companies of the CII, who have contributed enormously over the years in this journey on affirmative action. So, my compliments to all of them. But if you were to ask me whether we have done enough, I would say we have not done enough. We have not done enough only because the problem is huge. It's not a small problem. It is impacting something like 18 to 20% of the population of a country which has a population of over 1.2 billion people. So it is a very massive and a huge problem, and it is not going to get solved over a short period of time. It will probably take 25, 50, 100 years, but we have begun well, and we are on a journey. And I want to compliment the members of the CII in undertaking this journey. Now, what is CII's role and what is CII membership role? Let me tell you some of the things that we have done. One is, I think it is more than 5 or 6 years since we have started this national council on this council on affirmative action, and this council of affirmative action meets every quarter for at least 4 times in a year and discusses the progress that we are making in all the 4 regions of the country with all our companies and so that's one, the formation of the Affirmative Action Council itself. The second is we have evolved a code of conduct as a voluntary code of conduct to be adopted by our member companies, which many of our companies, as I mentioned, have adopted over time. The third is in the Affirmative Action Council, we have included members from the Dalit Chamber of Commerce. I think that has happened for the first time during the course of this year, and over time, I actually want to increase the membership from the Dalit community in the Affirmative Action Council. Fourthly, when I met the Prime Minister in the early part of this year, I had made a promise to him on behalf of CII that CII would submit a quarterly report on affirmative action to the Prime Minister and to the Prime Minister's office. Now, we have so far submitted two quarterly reports, one for the April, May, June quarter, and the second is for the July, August, September quarter. And this quarterly reports is a very quantified report which talks about what is the progress during that quarter in terms of employment, employability, entrepreneurship, and education, and supply diversity, and so on. So, and these reports have been well received, and I do believe that the government is increasingly getting convinced that the industry is actually doing something about it. Another initiative that we have taken is creation of a website. You know, the CIA has created a website on affirmative action where we are putting in, and we are still in the process of putting in anecdotal evidences from various companies, quantified information from various companies, initiatives taken by various companies into the website. In fact, I would like to see over time the website should be having a page for every single member company, and whatever the member companies are achieving, are doing, or doing activities in terms of affirmative action, they will appear on that page on the website where that particular company belongs to. And if there are companies which are not doing anything on that page is going to be blank. And I do know it is putting a little bit of peer pressure into our companies, but I think it is a good thing. For a good cause, I think we should have a little bit of a peer pressure. So these are the various activities. And one other activities I want to tell you, CII has been actively supporting the Dalit Chamber of Commerce in the activities of the Dalit Chamber of Commerce. Very shortly, in the month of December, during 16th, 17th, 18th of December 2001, the Dalit Chamber of Commerce are going to have a major vendor exhibition in Bombay, which they are conducting themselves. CI is going to support it both organizationally and financially. So these are the series of activities that CI has undertaken, and I do know that, for example, Endeavour, the book that we talked about earlier, is another initiative that the regions have taken in order to promote. All these are activities that are meant to create awareness, that are meant to create sort of a sharper focus on the need for doing affirmative action. And I think we are progressing well, but we have a long distance to go, and I would like to see more people join.
I would like to supplement what you said, Mr. President, by saying that talking to a few members of CII, they feel that they've not done enough to be able to speak. So I'm glad that that page will be there. And I think our members must recognize that small drops make an ocean. I may do a small thing, but if I put that in hundreds of us do little things, the sum total would be significant. I think that perhaps you'll be encouraging by having that page.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Uh, I'm sure the members would like to understand from you what is this supplier diversity?
You know, in the as you know, for the last ever since CIA started the affirmative action initiatives several years ago, 7 8 years ago, we have had four areas on which we are working. One is employment, the other is employability through skill development, training, and so on. Third is the entrepreneurship development among the SC/ST community. The fourth is education. Now, in the early part of this year, when the Affirmative Action Council had interaction with Dicky, and when I asked the Dicky members as to, because they are the customers, they are our customers, and we need to listen to the customer's voice in order to, take appropriate action. So when we asked the Dicky members as to what would they prefer as the most, as to what is the most important thing that we need to do for the SC/ST communities, they came up with a suggestion saying that there are many Dalit entrepreneurs throughout the country, manufacturing several goods, some small, some big, some in manufacturing, some in services, and so on and so forth. And they said if and they have a reasonably good vendor base spread out across the country. And they told us that if only the big companies can increase the extent of purchase from the Dalit vendors, from the vendors belonging to the SC/ST communities, it will make them better. It will make them bigger. It will make them richer. It will make them participate much more and more into economic activities into the country. So we started a program called the Supplier Diversity Program. What we have done is, on our request, the Dalit Chamber of Commerce has given to CII a list of vendors. The list is not complete, and I know there is much more work to be done, but they have given us a list of vendors of about 300 or 400 vendors around the country. And we have circulated these names of the vendors to various of our member companies. And we have requested the member companies to be in touch with these Dalit vendors, to the vendors of the SC/ST communities, and try and procure more items from them than what they have been procuring in the past. Now, this process is not going to be a simple process, because it is also necessary, in order to achieve results in supply diversity, to help the Dalit vendors uh, to and enable them in terms of quality improvement, in terms of cost reduction, in terms of delivery compliance, and so on and so forth. So it is going to be an interactive process between the large CII member companies, maybe medium and small member companies as well, and with the Dalit vendors, to ensure that there is enough interaction taking place so that we improve the quality of the Dalit vendors, and we are also able to purchase from them not on a preferential basis but on a comparative basis, because I'm sure that the Dalit vendors can actually be much more competitive than others. So that is the supply diversity
Mr. Muthuraman, I have no intention of coming between you and the members, but what would be your final message to our members?
You see, my final message is this: there are two good reasons why we must take affirmative action seriously. The first reason is a historic reason. The reason being that for several centuries, for thousands of years, there are certain sections of the society which has been disadvantaged and which have not been treated well, which have not had enough opportunities, which have not had equal opportunities in life as many of us have had, and many of the other people have had. This situation needs to be corrected, and I believe that we should take the responsibility of initiating this change and initiating this correction process. That is one good reason. The second reason is, if you don't do this, if you don't take an affirmative action, you can be sure that the government will one day make reservations compulsory. And I can tell you, reservation or mandation of anything is not a good process. It is not a process which will produce desired results. So there are, one is the logical reason of correcting historic mistakes. The second is the reason of uh, you know uh, the second reason is actually not as good a reason as the first reason, but sometimes we listen to pressure, more than logic or reasoning. So the second reason is the governmental pressure. So my final message to you is, I would like to see every single member of the CIA community to take an active part and active interest in the affirmative action process. And we should be able to say one day, saying that it is the CII which really invigorated the process of affirmative action in this country.
I would also supplement by saying that the reservations may have a tendency to erode our competitiveness in
Absolutely.
Indian industry's competitiveness.
Absolutely.
Therefore, we need to enable them, and that's what your efforts have been,
Yeah.
to enable them to reach the meritorious level, whether as entrepreneurs or as employees, so that on merits, and then we can move towards a casteless society.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm getting your questions, members. Uh, the first question is, how can you involve SME sector as they do not have HR managers?
You know, affirmative action is not simply an HR process. I know that in many companies it has been relegated to or delegated to the HR managers. It is a leadership process. The leadership has to take responsibility for affirmative action in every single company. In fact, what I would like to see is, definitely in major companies we must have a person or a group of persons whose primary job is actually to implement affirmative action in the company and create favorable circumstances and favorable ambience for affirmative action. In smaller companies, in small and medium scale enterprises, it can be a it can be an added job to somebody, and it need not be an HR person. It can be somebody from the leadership team. It can be the CEO himself. So don't relegate the affirmative action as a part of the HR process. It is a part of the business process. Just like we are producing, just like we are marketing, just like we are selling, it is a management process.
May I supplement also that even if in bigger organizations there is an HR guy, the CEO should get involved because that will give it the necessary thrust and direction. Sir, my second question to you from the membership is, do educational institutions have a role? And if so, what?
I do believe educational institutions have a role, but just now we are talking about the CIA's role in improving affirmative action and focusing on affirmative action. But I do believe educational institutions have a role. For example, the people of the Dalit community, the people belonging to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe, because of their social context in which they are living, to start with, they are not as shall we say, endowed with skills and knowledge and so on, as compared to the rest of the population. So I believe that the educational institutions have a responsibility to pay a specific and special attention to these kids, the boys and girls from the Dalit community, in making them, spend more time with them, give them coaching classes. And I can tell you something, I have seen it from personal experience. When you pay attention to them, when you give them coaching classes, when you give a special focus to them, and when you prepare them for competitive examination, they are as good as anybody else. So educational institutions have a role, and educational institutions should not, if you take on outstanding people and produce outstanding people, that doesn't make up for great educational institutions. Educational institutions are also are meant for improving the level of quality of people overall, and for which you need to take the SC/ST community people and pay special attention to them.
The next question to you, Mr. Muthuraman, is how can companies capture caste information of employees who do not have a set system?
I can give you an example of Tata Steel, because I think way back, probably 20 or 25 years ago, we had actually given up capturing the information on caste. In fact, our applications, we stopped putting caste as a criteria, or as a information that is required. But once the CI program started in terms of affirmative, and we were doing it in any case. The Tata Steel has been doing affirmative action in any case, because we knew who is from where, but the information was not getting captured. But I believe that there is a need to capture information, even if the information is not available historically. And if we talk to our unions, if we talk to our people and communicate to them properly as to why we are collecting the information is not being collected for discriminatory purposes. The information is being collected for the purpose of helping them. And I believe that it is possible to do it, and I have seen it happen in companies which have made serious attempt actually to talk to their people and to get that information, and that information is actually meant to help the process of affirmative action.
One of our members wants to know, are there other industry associations who are also taking steps in the direction that CII is?
Yeah, I do know that other associations, for example, FICCI has also taken steps in on affirmative action. There are individual companies which have taken affirmative action. So other people are taking, but we shouldn't worry about what other people are doing. I think we should worry about what we are doing. We need to be convinced that affirmative action is fundamental. We need to be convinced that the affirmative action is uh, is is uh, is as important as any other activity of a company, and therefore we need. And I would like to see CIA take a very major initiative and a lead role in this affirmative action. Don't worry about what others are doing, but I can tell you that others are also beginning to do this affirmative action job.
Can the quarterly reports be shared with members?
Yeah, very much. There is absolutely no problem. And I would ask the CIA Secretariat to put the affirmative, the quarterly report in the website. In fact, what I will do is immediately, in the next 1 or 2 days or so, we will have the April June quarter report, as well as the July August September quarter report that we submit to the Prime Minister's office, loaded on the website. And from now on, every quarter we load it on the website.
What is CII's role in capacity building of technical manpower, and does it cover affirmative action?
CIA has actually been doing a lot of work even before we started the affirmative action program in terms of skill building. Many of our individual companies train people, not only for people that they require, but also people that are required by the society and by the industry. We know, and there are many, many examples in this, including the company that I work for. And of late, the focus has got gradually, there is more and more focus on this training and skill development to become a part of the affirmative action plan also. So, for example, Mr. Mahalingam, who heads the skill development initiative on behalf of CII, we have a council on skill development. He regularly reports on what we are doing on skill development, and I do see that there are greater and greater numbers on from the Dalit community into the training program. For example, CII themselves, I think, have taken on something like 200 odd ITIs around the country. Individual companies are doing it, but one would like to see much more, bigger effort. As I said, the problem is huge. We are actually right in the early part of the journey, and I would like to see more of it being done. But the skill development is very much part of the affirmative action program.
Mr. Cecil Pinto of Goa says that they are making continuous efforts to reach out to SC/ST educated unemployed. But there are no takers. In this context, I may tell you Bajaj Auto's experience also. Uh, we have adopted ITIs, 4 ITIs, and we are keen that we are able to harness more and more of SC/STs, but they are not willing to move. We found it was difficult for us to encourage them. Either they, feel insecure, they are huddled together in their own places where they are staying. Maybe hostel could be one idea which will encourage them to come out. But Cecil Pinto says, please advise how to go ahead when there are no takers.
This is a journey which is going to have several hurdles, and this is one hurdle. I am also aware of the fact that sometimes you have a program but you don't have people to sort of come and attend the program because of the fact that they are somewhere in the village. They are some 300 kilometers away. India is a large country. India as a country doesn't have good infrastructure or good transport facilities and so on. What I would recommend in all those cases is, please don't give up. Please be absolutely persuasive in that. Please be sort of fanatic about this program, and take the help of the Dalit associations. You got Dicky with the Dalit Chamber of Commerce, and if there is any problem somewhere where you have a program but you are not able to attract people, please let the CIA Secretariat also know, and the CIA Secretariat, and we will connect you to the respective Dalit chambers that are existent in various parts of the country, and we can go through the Dalit chambers to make sure that more of the SC/ST communities actually take part in the programs that you have to offer. And if you are able to provide some hostel facilities, if you are able to provide some facilities which are able to attract them to come and attend your program, that is even better. But I want to tell you that these are some of the difficulties, but because of the difficulties, we should give up the program.
One of the members wants to understand the difference between CSR and affirmative action. Many times there is duplication or confusion, and AA initiatives are many times covered under CSR. How would you react to that?
It doesn't matter
Exactly.
whether you have a CSR program, an affirmative action program, or whether you have one program in which you do both. Affirmative action is actually a CSR program aimed at the Dalit community. That's the way I see it. Affirmative action is a corporate social responsibility program aimed specifically at the Dalit community. So, you can use any terminologies. CSR and affirmative action are not different. They are one and the same. Except that, as I said, CSR is, affirmative action is a CSR aimed at the Dalit community. So you can call it by any name. You do your CSR work. There are companies where there are larger companies where there is a organization for doing the CSR, and there is a separate group of people who will focus only on affirmative action. My request to you is, in whatever CSR work that you are doing and whatever CSR work that you are planning, please give a special emphasis to affirmative action, and please give a special emphasis to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe. That is, and by doing that, we would be doing justice to the affirmative action program.
Thank you. Is there an overall roadmap that CII is following for integration of SC/ST people in industry?
I don't know whether an overall master plan is possible or not. As of now, as I said, we are in the early part of a journey. We have something like annual goals we have a goal for this year. We have a goal in terms of how many people we will train. We have a goal in terms of how many scholarships we'll give. We have a goal in terms of to what extent we will improve the supply diversity. We have a goal as to how many SC/ST people will get employed. We have some annual goals. But at the end of the day, as we progress in this journey, we need to have a larger roadmap. But I must also say that this larger roadmap really need to be done by individual companies. Just like you make your business plan, you make an annual business plan, you have a 5 year business plan, and sometimes you may have even a 10-year business plan. And every company must have an affirmative action policy, an affirmative action plan, which is an annual plan or a 5 year plan or a 10-year plan as to what you will do. That is the situation to which I would like to see CII and CII member companies evolve.
So what is the feedback from Government of India on CII's affirmative action initiatives? Are they satisfied or are they dissatisfied?
No, I think they are increasingly getting satisfied. As I mentioned earlier, CII submits a quarterly report to the government, and our quarterly report goes to the government, and the report is becoming more and more quantitative as our own measurement system also is improving. As you may have, some of you may be aware, we had uh, we had engaged a consulting company called Feedback Ventures, feedback consultants, and they are actually doing a survey of all the member companies around India. The survey is only part complete; it is not fully complete, and I think it will get completed by early March next year. But I'm beginning to see the government getting increasingly convinced that the industry is taking action and CII is taking action, and I'm satisfied with the government's response. And it is important. It is important. In fact, let me also tell you, the I mentioned about the website, the creation of website by CII on affirmative action. The plan is to open this website to the government. The plan is to open this website to the public of India, so that the public of India and the government of India or the state government, anyone who wants to see what CII member companies are doing on affirmative action, they have access to this website and they can open the website and see it. And I would like, that is the kind of communication that we need to indulge in.
Also the media.
Also, of course, the media.
What would be your suggestion or advice on encouraging entrepreneurship among the SC/STs?
You see, the way to encourage entrepreneurship, the best way in my view, is to actually encourage the supplier diversity program. In the moment the Dalit community sees success models, success stories, and role models among them, more and more people will catch up. So the one sure and best way to improve the entrepreneurial spirit among the Dalit community is to have a better supplier diversity in terms of buying more from the Dalit vendors, and that is the supplier diversity program. Every company must have a conscious effort saying that this is what I am buying, from the Dalit vendors this year, so many lakhs or so many crores. Next year I want to increase it by 10%, and next year I want to increase it by 10%, or every year I want to increase it by 10%, and I want to increase the number of Dalit vendors from 2 to 3, or 3 to 5, and 5 to 8, and so on and so forth. We must make a conscious plan, just like we make sort of any other business plan. This is one sure way of making sure that there are more and more entrepreneurs from the Dalit community.
So do the NGOs have a role to play in all this? And more specifically, in promoting an affirmative action program in a company?
Companies which are large have actually, part of that company is NGOs. The department or the division which takes care of corporate social responsibility or affirmative action, as the case may be, works like an NGO and behaves like an NGO. But smaller companies may want to use some good NGOs around the country. So, there are some very good NGOs in India, and I would even recommend you, some of the medium and small enterprises, to use NGOs to promote the company's plan on affirmative action.
In fact, in the advertisement, one can say that other things being equal and merit being equal, we would give preference to these
Absolutely.
people.
In fact, many companies have that policy.
So, is it advisable to report the affirmative action initiatives in a company's annual report? And
Yes,
would you encourage it?
I would definitely encourage it, and I believe it's a good practice. Look, we need to demonstrate in any case more and more transparency in terms of many things that the corporates do, because corporations are social entities, and it is important for corporations to be one with the society, and therefore the need for you know the more transparency and more communication of what exactly they do, and more even from a corporate governance point of view, it's an important aspect. So I would definitely encourage more and more companies to declare what they do on affirmative action in their annual reports.
One question is, bigger companies take vendors who have to conform to quality standards. Now, how do we engage SMEs on the one hand and SCSTs suppliers on the other hand in order to make sure that the quality standards of the bigger companies are met?
Yeah, it's a good question, and my answer to this question is this: taking action to include the SC/ST communities into the mainstream of economic activity is a responsibility that every company must discharge. And in that responsibility, supplier diversity is one aspect of it. And to discharge that supplier diversity responsibility well, you need to actually help the Dalit vendors to improve their quality, improve their delivery compliance, reduce their cost, and so on. So it is not simply a matter of saying that so and so's quality is good and I will buy it. We need to actively help the Dalit vendors to come up in terms of quality of their products and delivery compliance of their products and cost of their products. And that's a responsibility that each of our companies must undertake.
What are your views on government freebies versus CI's affirmative action plans? And will it in any way create a complacency in society with this group?
I am never a supporter of freebies. I am never a supporter of subsidies. These are not going to help. Finally, competitiveness is the key to economic growth of a country. Let us do what we should do, and I believe that the direction that CII member companies have taken is the right direction, and that's what we should pursue. Let's not worry about whether the government is giving freebies or not.
Should we handle the inclusion of the tribals as a separate charter? STs are more disadvantaged than SCs, according to this member.
We can keep making these distinctions, and we can get it to an analysis paralysis mode. What I would recommend is let us focus on SCST. As I said even earlier in a question that Madhur asked me, that why is it we are focusing only on SCST? It is only because of the fact that the journey has to start somewhere. It is not that you should not worry about tribal. There are many companies which have got tribal programs. I know of companies which have got a tribal sort of cultural society and tribal development society and so on. So it's a good thing to do it, but from a point of view of focus, let us focus on one thing at a time, and that focus is on SCST. And tomorrow that focus might shift as we gradually journey this process.
The tribals are included already in the
In fact,
ST. He was just saying that why not give it more preference to tribals because according to him, but
please feel free to do that. Nobody is sort of stopping you from doing that.
this is a suggestion from Mr. Swaminathan. He says call 5 top CEOs and request them direct involvement on affirmative action, and CII at the local level can take it forward. Your comments, sir.
No, I agree with this suggestion, and I think it's a good suggestion. Look, I have been a CEO myself, and I can tell you that I have taken personal interest in affirmative action even before it was called affirmative action. I can tell you that. So I entirely agree with you. Maybe we should select 5 or 6 CEOs and make them as focus points in this.
Is CII starting collection of data and submitting it to the government?
Yes, very much. In fact, the CIS, one of the weakness in the CIS affirmative action program was the shall we say, the collection of data and the difficulty of collection data and difficulty of gathering data and difficulty for the companies to give data. And I think there has been a great amount of improvement on that in the recent past. And we submit the data to the government in our quarterly report every quarter. But it's also true that our data collection process needs to improve even more.
I believe we have time for a few more questions.
Yeah, very much.
So let it flow in, members. Will it not create a class divide? Something which a lot of members are concerned with. Are we heading towards a classless society or a caste-based society?
This is actually a very good question, and it is also a very sensitive question. Let me deal with it in this manner. For the last several centuries, or for thousands of years, when we did not have a consciously planned program on affirmative action, there were castes, and a lot of it was being decided on the basis of caste and class and so on. Somebody should be a farmer, and somebody should be an intelligent sort of teacher, or somebody should be the laborer, and so on. And we had divided all that. Now, what we are now trying to do by these actions, it actually going sort of correcting the situation of the past. So I don't see it leading to a caste society. I'm actually seeing it as some solution to the caste society that we have had for many, many years. I see it as a solution to the problem rather than creating a new problem. And I do believe that the affirmative action, like it has happened in the United States, like I think it is beginning to happen in South Africa and other countries, the affirmative action program will actually lead to a classless society over time.
In fact, I agree with you. The classes and the castes will remain if we do not include them
Correct.
in the mainstream.
That's right.
How affirmative action is going to support the process of economic upliftment for the SC/STs, as it does not focus only on the economic criteria. This is from Mr. Rajan of TRF.
No, it actually focuses on economic criteria. The 4 E's that we talked about, and also the supply development, every single of them is actually focusing on economic criteria. If you give somebody good education, then he has a better opportunity to participate in the value creation activities of a country. If you give somebody employment, he is part of the value creation process. If you give somebody skill development and training, he becomes a sort of party to a value creation process in the value chain. Or if you increase the supply diversity, you are actually promoting entrepreneurship in Dalit. Every one of the actions that we are taking in the affirmative action program is actually aimed at economic activity and bringing the Dalit community more and more into economic activity of the country.
Another question is the list of Dalit vendors for engineering industry available?
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we had requested the Dalit Chamber of Commerce to give us a list. Those people have given us an initial list. That list itself is not complete. That initial list has many companies, probably about 300 or 400 companies, maybe about 150 or 200 companies, and this list we have actually circulated to all the CII members. I'm going to now ask the CII Secretariat to make sure that the two things that they should do. One is the existing list of Dalit vendors we will recirculate to all the National Council members. That is number one. And what they do, and what line of activity they are in, where are they located, who is the contact point, all the details we will send. Secondly, we will redouble our efforts to talk to the Dalit Chamber of Commerce to get more names of more vendors into the list so that we can send it to all of you. So these are two things that we will do.
I believe this question is from our special invitee. Can an individual connect with CII on affirmative action programs, or is it only for organizations and members of CII?
You see, just now it is for the members of the CII, but I would be happy, even if somebody is not a member of the CII, I would ask the CII to help that process, even if somebody is outside the CII system. It doesn't matter. What we need to do is finally get the job done. Uh, After answering that question, I just want to add something since nobody asked the question. You know, very recently, just a couple of months ago, the CIA has appointed an ombudsman for affirmative action. He is Mr. Harpal Singh, our former Northern Regional Chairman of CII and a very respected figure in the industry. Mr. Harpal Singh is the ombudsman for CII. Now, the purpose of appointing an ombudsman is to demonstrate CII's seriousness in getting itself subjected to an external view as to how we are doing. So, the ombudsman, in fact, we are going to circulate very shortly a detailed note to all the National Council members about the roles and responsibilities of the ombudsman and so on and so forth. So, we have to, in fact, by appointing an ombudsman, we are taking one more very major step in the affirmative action direction by saying that look, we are taking this action, but we are subjected to an audit, or we are subjected to an independent question by an ombudsman. An ombudsman is, free to ask any company any question as to, how are you doing, what's your problem, are you doing properly or not, are we progressing enough, and so on. I think it's a very major step in the process that we are adopting.
If I may take two questions which are related. One is from Mr. Harish of Cisco. We understand that caste-based affirmative action is aligned with the government policy. However, it is not perhaps the best. Can CII in parallel think of an alternative to caste-based affirmative action? And the second question related, classless society is the best. Any views on time frame? 5 years, 15 years, 25 years?
Time frame is difficult because we are trying to solve a problem which has had its origins for the last 1000 or 2000 or 3000 years. So that problem of 2000 years or 3000 years cannot be solved in 5 years or 10 years, and I would expect it to take very many years more, maybe 50 years or 100 years or something like that, if we move fast enough. And the answer to the first question is, look, instead of the analysis paralysis, whether the government is right, whether we are right, whether we should do something better, let us do something. And if we are aligned with the government, it's fine. It may not be the most ideal, but it is part of the journey. And once we have achieved certain goals in the journey, we will shift the goalpost and do something more in the same direction.
Can CII provide a platform for marketing products of tribal people?
Yeah, that's a good idea, and I am going to ask CIA to think about it. It's a good idea. It's a very good idea. And I think some work is being done by CIA in that direction.
Question from Mr. Sampath of TCS. Should not corporates collaborate among themselves and with the government to address the issue?
Look, collaboration of companies is what CIA is about. CIA is a collaboration of some 8,000 odd companies. So when CIA is taking action, affirmative action, and when this webinar is going, it is a collective action of 8,000 companies. So that's what we are doing.
Can CII play an active role in each city in linking the SCST with the corporates?
Yeah, we need to do more work. I also firm believe, and I'm very passionate about it, that CIA needs to do a little bit of thinking in terms of restructuring itself a little bit better to make sure that it is represented in every city, in every major metropolitan city, in small cities where it can be on a regular touch. Just like we have, for example, I would like to see in every of our regional offices one person who actually does only, the affirmative action type of work. I think we are moving in that direction.
This is from Mr. Praveen of TAL. How do we integrate affirmative action initiative with long-term business strategy and short-term annual operating plan? You have some suggestions on this?
Look, every company has a long-term plan. It has a long-term business plan. What is a business plan? A business plan has what you will produce, what you will market, what the markets are going to be, what profits you will make, what investment you will make. And affirmative action is part of that business plan. So a business plan of a company must have an affirmative action incorporated in it. It is not something which is separate. The moment if we consider it as a separate event or a separate activity, then we will lose focus. It is part of conducting business.
This is from
Farad, I see.
What is Farhad saying?
Yeah. Farad wants to say something?
No, he has made a comment.
It's too small, right?
Yeah, no, there is a comment from Farad. Farad Forbes is actually the co-chair of the Affirmative Action Council, and I'm going to read Farad's comment. He says, besides the two good reasons for companies to practice affirmative action that Mr. Muthuraman mentioned, namely that there is a moral responsibility because of historic discrimination, two, the alternative of government action to legislate reservations if industry does not act on its own, there is a third good reason, and that there is a good business case for industry. I entirely agree with Farad on that. The third reason is that there is a good business case for industry for affirmative action, and that is through affirmative action we will broaden the pool of people we can effectively recruit from. If members of the SC/ST community are better trained and can qualify for positions in our companies, we would broaden the recruitment pool by 20% or more. It's entirely correct, and I entirely agree with Farad on that. In fact, let me also tell you, it is my personal experience that in many positions, the people from the SC/ST communities are more loyal to the work, and they are more long lasting. And when we are talking about attrition and so on, it is also a good business case. And Farad, thank you very much, and I think it's a very good point that you make.
If you can go to the next point about Rohit Saroj, Tata Motors, he says, don't you think suppliers are already creamy layer, or and so why so much emphasis on vendor diversity? According to him, they are already the creamy layer, so they don't need to be supported. That's what I've understood, Rohit.
No, I have not understood the question very well, but
So I
all
believe
that, yeah.
he's suggesting, I think, that all the vendors are creamy layers, but that's what we want. We want diversification from the so-called creamy layers to the SCSTs, with by empowering them to give the quality delivery and on-time deliveries, so that we can include them in our vendor list. I think this is
See,
what
what
he's
is
going
being
to say.
suggested, what I'm suggesting in the supply diversity program is to find a way to increase the number of Dalit vendors from whom you source things, and increase the volume and the amount of buying from the Dalit vendors. In order to do that, they may need some support, not so much financial support, but from support in the form of how to improve their quality, how to improve their delivery compliance, how to reduce cost, how to do a continuous improvement process, all that. And that, to my mind, as a part of the responsibility of taking affirmative action, I believe the industries must discharge. That's the point that I was making.
It's 10:30. Would you like to have a last word with a bang?
No, there is really no last word on the subject, but I want to once again appeal to all members of the CII to take affirmative actions seriously. I do know that there is more and more interest. There are more and more companies joining, but unless we get it into our bloodstream to believe that affirmative action is fundamental to business. It is part of doing a business. It is not a separate activity. It is part and parcel of conducting a business in modern world. It is necessary to correct the historic mistakes that we have made. It is necessary to, as Farad mentioned, it is necessary. It makes a good business sense. For all these reasons, I would once again appeal to all of you to pay much more emphasis on affirmative action than what we have been doing so far.